co-chair of the League of Women Voters of Orange County Juvenile Justice Committee with my co-chair, former Judge Morris Smith, and members of our committee, Juvenile Justice Committee, who are sprinkled around the area here, and Joanne Schwayback, who is a great resource for any statistics you might need at the end. Florida has historically had one of the worst school-to-prison pipelines in the country. Orange and Osceola, which comprises the 9th Judicial Circuit, has had the highest arrest record of juveniles for first-time misdemeanors anywhere in the state among all 20 judicial circuits. About 2 years ago, the League learned about the Civil Citation Program. This program gives our youth who commit nonviolent misdemeanors a chance to improve their behavior without the baggage of an arrest. Recidivism, the repeat offense, is roughly half of that with an arrest. After our members learned about the program, and at a news conference set up by Public Defender Bob Wesley, we were very concerned to hear about the lack of usage in Orange and Osceola counties. And the Orange County League, which is the largest league of women voters in America, started a juvenile justice committee and began to meet with area police chiefs to find out what they knew about the program, if they were using it, and what their plans were to either implement it or expand it. This outreach began roughly a year ago. Subsequently, we connected with Dewey Carruthers, who is the preeminent expert on the state on this issue and is working with several different groups, which he will tell you about, as well as ours, to dissect and to track the data and help counties around the state expand their use of civil citation. The bottom line is that while Orange and Osceola are still lagging in the rankings, we have made some very significant progress here. We are still below the state average, which is roughly 51%. But we believe that if this community comes together with a goal of 90% and above, which is what they are doing in Miami-Dade, we know that other counties have accomplished this. We know that, and we believe that we can accomplish this. This report card today is an opportunity for the public to learn about the progress of our two largest law enforcement agencies and their goals and plans to expand the use of civil citation and thus improve the future for our young people. First, we will hear from state expert and consultant Dewey Carruthers. Next, we will hear from Chief Mina of the Orlando Police Department, who has shown great progress. And then Captain Chapman will be speaking from the Orange County Sheriff's Department, followed by Public Defender Bob Wesley and State Attorney Jeff Ashton. I want to also express our thanks to State Attorney Jeff Ashton, Public Defender Bob Wesley, and Chief Judge Fred Lawton, who all of them have been very supportive of this program, and we are very grateful for their encouragement. That will be followed by any area police chiefs who would like to speak, and a closing by our Orange County League of Women Voters co-president, Carol Davis. Carol, would you stand? Thank you. Okay. So, with no more ado, I would like to hand the microphone over to Dewey Carruthers, who will help us understand some of these numbers and the significance for our children.
Thank you, Deidre. My name is Dewey Carruthers, and I run a St. Petersburg think tank called Carruthers Institute. We conduct research, work on solutions, and lead advocacy on emerging children's issues. And the juvenile civil citation issue in Florida is one of our main areas that we focus on. We literally study this issue every week of the year and work statewide with lots of different folks. I'm also the author of a study called Stepping Up, Florida's Top Juvenile Civil Citation Efforts. It's an annual study in its third year, and it's supported by the ACLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center, Florida State University Project on Accountable Justice, the Children's Campaign, James Madison Institute, and the Florida PTA. Now, I listed all those names to show you that the supporters of this issue span the political spectrum. They go from left-leaning organizations to right-leaning organizations, and they all agree on this issue. Before I begin, I want to make sure everyone understands that when we talk about juvenile civil citations, we're talking about a solution that addresses common youth misbehavior. We're not talking about felonies or any serious crimes. These are offenses that back in the day, when many of us adults were teenagers, we committed on a regular basis. A schoolyard fight without injury, stealing a t-shirt from a surf shop, underage drinking, smoking a joint, these sorts of things resulted in a trip to the principal's office or a call to our parents back in our day. Juvenile civil citations are alternative to arrest for common youth misbehavior. After law enforcement issues the civil citation, youth enter a program that involves an assessment to determine if they're at risk to reoffend. If that assessment determines they're at risk to reoffend, intervention services are mandated. This could be anger management for a boy who got in a fight. It could be alcohol rehabilitation for a youth who's deemed to have a problem with alcohol. Regardless, that becomes part of the program requirements. I was asked here today to provide an update from a key finding on our last study. In our last study, it showed that Orange County was one of 3 counties, along with Duval and Hillsborough, in fiscal year 2014-2015, that comprised 24% of all the arrests statewide for juvenile civil citation eligible offenses. When the study came out, the utilization rate for Orange County was 17%. That means that law enforcement was arresting in 83% of all instances. However, things have changed. Orange County, at least, of the 3, is definitely moving in the right direction. From October 2015 to September 2016, Orange County has more than doubled its utilization rate, improving to 39%. This is a huge, dramatic increase in a short period of time. This definitely shows that Orange County is moving in the right direction. However, there's still much work to do since they are still making arrests and more often than not. Our research with the studies over the last couple of years and our continuing ongoing research shows that juvenile civil citations accomplish 3 key community benefits. They increase public safety, they improve youth outcomes, and they save taxpayers lots of money. Let's talk about youth recidivism, which is a fancy word for reoffending. It's much lower for juvenile civil citations than it is for those who are arrested. For instance, youth who complete the juvenile civil citation program have a recidivism rate of 5%, and for those youth who enter a post-arrest diversion program for civil citation eligible offenses, it's 9%. When you look at some of the most common offenses, the disparity is even larger. Assault and battery, for instance, the civil citation rate is 5%. The post-arrest diversion rate is 12%. Trespassing, the civil citation rate is 6%. For post-arrest diversion, it's 16%. Petty theft, civil citation 3%, post-arrest diversion 7%. And lastly, marijuana, civil citation recidivism is 5%, and post-arrest diversion is 10%. In fact, if Orange County, we ran some numbers, if Orange County were to issue civil citations in all instances during this October 2015 to September 2016 time period, the cost savings that would have been generated would be equivalent to $1.3 million to $4.1 million that could have been poured into public safety resources to address more serious crimes like felonies. We've provided some handouts on Orange and Osceola County with some specific data. So at this point, let me turn this over. Back to Deidre.
Just very briefly, I also want to recognize Chief McKinley from Apopka, who is with us today. And Apopka has gone from 0% civil citation to, is it 42%? So that is really a remarkable progress. And I also want to recognize that we have Bishop Kelvin Kobaris, who is here with us tonight and today, and will be speaking as well. It is now my pleasure to introduce Chief John Mina, and again, we have seen an extraordinary improvement in Orlando from 4% to over 40%, and we are very grateful for Chief Mina's stewardship on this thing.
Thank you, Deidre. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with all of you to talk about this very important issue. Back in 2014, when the league met with me, we had already had some important internal meetings about the use of juvenile civil citations. And let me say this, our police officers, all of us, we didn't get into law enforcement to arrest kids. And listening to Dewey talk about the high school fights, I remember being in one of those fights in the high school hallways and having an in-school suspension. The police were never called, and there was no criminal record. We just moved on, and that was it. So we are extremely committed to this program, and our numbers alone have risen over 250%. We only issued something like 40 last year, and we're up near, I think, 165 this year. So we're very, very happy with that. And I will tell you that the message has come from me personally. I just talked to a group of 40 officers this morning about the importance of juvenile civil citations, and every time I talk about or talk to our officers, that is one of the messages I'm sending. Because, and like I said before, they don't want to arrest the kid if they don't have to. And our hands are tied by certain criteria, and so we're putting several measures in place to ensure that our officers are writing the citations. And when they're not writing the citations, a manager is going back and looking at those arrests and having the officer, if the officer filed a charge in the state attorney's office, we're having the officer go ahead and issue the juvenile civil citation. And we just did 2 of them this week, where the officer mistakenly or for whatever reason filed charges with the state attorney's office. Our manager went down, looked at the paperwork, and said, talked to the officer, said, why didn't you give him a juvenile civil citation? And it's just a lack of training. So those officers issued those 2 juveniles the juvenile civil citations. So my point here today is just to say and let everyone know that we are very committed to this. We think it's vital to our community. But again, I will say this: it's not up to the police alone. We know we can't arrest our way out of certain problems, and certainly we can't just give citations and clear certain problems. We need the entire community, and that's why I'm glad there's so many different pieces of our community here today, because it takes everyone. And like I said, that even if we can, I'm very glad to hear the recidivism rates dropping, and that's the message that I pass along to my officers, because again, that's the last thing we want to do is keep arresting these kids over and over again for those minor offenses. So I'll be available afterwards for questions. Thank you.
Just going to increase the volume for a second. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Captain Ronald Chapman with Orange County Sheriff's Department, and they also have had some very significant improvements. Welcome.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here before you guys and to represent Sheriff Demings. He had some other commitments, was unable to make it today. As you heard Chief Mina say, this juvenile civil citation is a program that has been coming on since around 2012 through the Sheriff's Office. Our numbers have greatly increased this year, from September of last year through October of this year. It's been implemented by the Sheriff's deputies on patrol out there approximately 600 and something times, I believe 619. So it's gaining. The good thing about this is it's another tool for our patrol people, our first responders to use as an alternative to arrest. We all know, I've been in this business for several decades now, and when I started, it was take them home to the mom, leave them. There was no real follow-up on anything. What I think is key about this juvenile civil citation program is it kind of formalizes things, because oftentimes if you just take them home to mom or dad, it may not be the follow-up. This will provide that. It also gives a deputy an opportunity to look at the whole picture along with some victim cooperation and make a decision what might be a better course. Does this child really need to go be incarcerated, go into the judicial system, or can we send them down this path? So it's a great alternative. The sheriff has embraced it. I am confident that as time goes on, it's going to continue to grow and be an alternative to arrest. We have worked within the parameters that the chiefs in the state attorney's office have worked out, and it seems to be very successful so far. And I know the sheriff is going to continue to push forward with this. So I also will be available for any questions afterwards. Have a great day.
It is now my pleasure to introduce our public defender, Bob Wesley.
should have called me. I wouldn't have brought it.
Good morning. We do have a disconnect. As much as we praise ourselves today, the community gets the criminal justice system that they want, that you insist upon, and that's why we're here to speak to you. We again lead the state in the disturbing statistic of arresting more 5 to 12-year-olds than anywhere else in the state. In our great diverse state, the third largest in the country, 1 out of every 10 5 to 12-year-olds is arrested in Orange County. The disconnect is that we think our law enforcement officers on the street believe that arrests are good and they show discipline to children and they have a life-changing event. Unfortunately, the life-changing event is the kid who's arrested is more likely to offend. Our juvenile justice professionals tell us that no matter what they do or don't do, 3 out of 4 kids who are in the criminal problem will not reoffend. The family's strong enough, the school is strong enough, the church is strong enough, the community is strong enough. Those kids don't need the process. The kids are in big trouble, the ones who need the healing and need the resources. And I praise our state attorney because of the vast number of arrests. We lead the state in this county in arrests, but the prosecutor has seen fit to divert people out quickly, divert children out quickly into rehabilitative and therapeutic programs that are family-based and have a threshold and they meet those thresholds. That's the disconnect. If law enforcement are loading so many and only a few are charged, we know that we have a problem there. And that's the beauty of the civil citations, to let us have a therapeutic step. And let us please not continue to be putting babies in handcuffs in our jurisdiction and save the resource of jail beds and the prison function for the most violent among us, for the most serious criminals, and work on therapeutic and behavior changing things for our kids. Thank you very much.
I'm going to invite Chief McKinley now, who's had very exciting progress in Apopka, the second largest city in Orange County, to speak. Thank you, Chief.
Good morning. The Apopka Police Department, with all the law enforcement agencies in Orange County, is committed to our juveniles. We've always had a program. We use a restorative justice program, that was a post-arrest program. Last year we looked at juvenile civil citations and decided maybe a pre-arrest program, looking at all the statistics where recidivism rate was less when they didn't actually enter the criminal justice system. They weren't taken down to the Juvenile Department of Justice or anything else. So we implemented the program in January. We implemented our policy. We trained all of our officers. And I'm happy to say since then, out of I think we had 74 that may have been eligible for civil citations, we've issued 29 civil citations to juveniles in the city of Apopka. So it is a 42% increase over where we were. We've always been involved in making sure that the juveniles in our community, we all make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes, and sometimes we just need a break. And sometimes after that mistake, and we get that little break, we turn our life around and we become a better, productive member of society. So that's our goal using the juvenile civil citation, is to make sure that juveniles get that break that they might need in life. It doesn't affect or hamper their careers that they may want to go into, such as the medical field, law enforcement field, and other things in the future. So we're very proud of what our officers are doing. We have some work to do. We're continuing to work at it. We're continuing to assess what our differences is, why we're not at 100% of those that might be eligible. So we continue to work on this. I appreciate the League of Women Voters. I've met with them a couple of times. They've encouraged us to look at this. We've looked at this, and I think we've made great progress in this area, and we're proud of what we're doing. So I want to thank them also for their commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief McKinley. Now I would like to introduce our State Attorney, Jeff Ashton, who has been very supportive and helpful in moving this forward.
Good morning. I want to start out by giving you all a little history of the civil citation program in Orange County. In 2012, 13 children were given civil citations in all of Orange County. 13, that was it. In 2013, that number jumped to 226, more than almost 200 times as many. I want to give you that statistics because what it shows is that these law enforcement professionals got on board to civil citations before it really became all that popular. In 2013, as I said, 226. In 2014, 310. 2015, it went down a little bit to 276. And this year already, as of the end of November, 619 children have been admitted to the civil citation program. So you understand, The choice to give a civil citation is by the law enforcement officers. The state attorney's office can only facilitate and encourage the use of civil citations, and we have tried very hard to do that. We have accomplished many things in the last 4 years. There are many things that we have done that have left this community better than we found it. But this number is the one I am most proud of, is that we have encouraged the use of civil citations. We've shown law enforcement why it is better for them, and they have responded wonderfully in support of that. We've also really appreciated the support of the League of Women Voters in bringing this issue to the forefront. And we look forward to, or I look forward to watching in the future as this program increases. Now, I'm in a unique position here because I am no longer a politician. Okay? I can tell you exactly what I think because I don't care what you think about what I think. Let me just tell you this. The civil citation program is a wonderful thing, but I want to take small issue with a couple of things that have been said here. The first is Miami is not the gold standard. Each community has its own unique issues and problems. And I just ask you to understand and trust these law enforcement professionals to understand the unique challenges of this community. And I would just ask you to move away from the statistic. I don't know that 90% civil citation is the best thing. We have a very active pretrial diversion program in Orange County and Osceola County. We've had it for more than a decade, much more active than Miami. So don't be swayed by the statistic. Your law enforcement professionals believe in this system. Your law enforcement professionals don't like putting children in handcuffs. Trust them to use these tools and to use them appropriately. I'm very proud of what they've done, and I'm very proud of what my office has done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, State Attorney Ashton, and I'm a little concerned about your comment about don't trust the statistics too much because they are showing us the distinctively reduced recidivism rate. But in any event, I would at this point like to introduce Bishop Kelvin Kobaris, who will give us a community perspective. Welcome, Bishop.
Good morning, everyone. Bishop Kelvin Kobaris, representing the African American Council of Christian Clergy, which this particular issue is near and dear to our hearts as we partnered and sat with the League of Women's Voters to hear about juvenile citations. I was so excited when I learned about it that I left from that meeting and called Chief Miller and called the Sheriff's Office and called these agencies that we work so closely with to make sure that this particular what I would call form of criminal justice reform and diversion will be working and will continue to work effectively here in our county and in our city. And I want to commend the League of Women's Voters for taking on the leadership to ensure that juvenile citation is something that is enforced through our law enforcement agencies to help impact directly our young people and our juveniles. I'm out there on the trenches, in the trenches every day, working with these very juveniles that are not here represented to speak for themselves today. And I'm sure that many of them that I have worked with personally can tell you thank you for another chance. As a pastor, I believe in second chances. As a pastor, I believe in grace and mercy. And I believe that if we can use and effectively use these citations even more in our city and our county through our law enforcement agencies, we can help divert and deter some of these young people that are involving themselves in things that are not right because of sometimes environmental influences or just not knowing any better, not having the direction and the support system that they need. With this particular citation being put in place, it allows then the community, churches, mentoring programs, and other like programs to come in and intervene instead of sending them off to jail and messing up their record for the rest of their lives. It allows them the opportunity to redirect and channel that particular negative energy into something positive. So we've come today collectively as a clergy coalition to stand with the League of Women Voters, to stand with our law enforcement agencies, which we are so proud of their effort in making an opportunity for young people not to be arrested, but to have an opportunity to get themselves together so that they can live as good citizens in this city. As you're all aware of the different crimes that are taking place in our city, we're dealing with tragedies right now. I have to bury 2 young men that were killed just a few days ago right in this city from violent crimes. And if I and others could have gotten to them and to the person who took their life prior to this occurring, we would not be having a funeral, I don't believe, this weekend for that 23-year-old. So what I'm saying, that this juvenile citation will allow an opportunity for young people that may be on the wrong path to be directed to the right path by being given not just a second chance, but another chance, and being offered the compassion that they need to be put in an environment and get the support that they need to get on the right path. So I've come to strongly endorse juvenile citations, and I'm encouraging our law enforcement agents. I even told Chief Minna when I called him that day, I had a flyer that one law enforcement agency posted up in, I believe, the break room of where the law enforcement officers would, to remind them to use and enforce juvenile citations versus arresting our young people. So I just wanted to share those thoughts with you today to let you know that the clergy community is fully behind this, because this is a great part of reform for criminal justice system, and we want to see people living productive and right lives. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Bishop Cabarrus. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our co-president of the League of Women Voters of Orange County, the largest League of Women Voters in America, Carol Davis, to close us up before questions.
Ago, I believe Deidre McNabb at one of our planning meetings said we need to have a program about juvenile justice. When she said it, I thought, we don't have that. We need it. As a person who, I happen to be the president of the League of Women Voters of Orange County, but I also raised 2 sons in Orange, well, one in Orange County, one in a different place. My sons had the advantage of having a father. My sons had the advantage of having a mother who stayed up until they got in the house every night. A mother who checked their room to make sure there wasn't anything in it that shouldn't be there. I told my son that this is a tough world and you must learn how to navigate it, because I expect you to grow up to be a productive citizen. Not all children have that advantage. We have a number of at-risk students. When I think back to my childhood and back to high school, I would like to say that probably all of us today would be called at-risk students. However, that didn't happen. In my class of 180 students, 82% of us went on to college. They're now doctors, dentists, teachers. There were a few kids who fell through the cracks, but the principal always managed to go down to the jail, pick them up, bring them back to school, tell them to take a shower, and go to class. Some of them made it, and some of them didn't. It's all in what we think of our children. Children make mistakes. I'm going to read you a quote, and I want you to guess what period in history this might have been said. The children now love luxury. They don't have manners, contempt for authority, and they disrespect their parents and love chatter in place of exercise. They no longer rise when elders reach the room. Children are now tyrants, and they contradict their parents They chatter before company, and they tyrannize their teachers. In today's world, this kind of behavior would be probably labeled juvenile delinquency. And he or she would probably drop out of school, become a member of a gang, or enter the criminal justice system. The League of Women Voters urge all stakeholders to join with us in our work to encourage the use of civil citations when children are eligible. I don't think that children have changed that much since the time of Cicero, Plato, or Socrates. That was the description of children back in Greek society. Children are children. They make mistakes. Some of the mistakes can be corrected, and civil citations can help those children. I don't want to see any more children in shackles and being arrested. When I go to a school, and I have volunteered in schools, I see children who misbehave. Children misbehave. They won't sit still. They talk back. My children talked back. However, there was a consequence to talking back. I am a typical mother. I did not allow certain things in my house. I was the adult and they were the children. They are now adults and they treat their children the same way. Let's move forward as stakeholders, all of us, to make sure that 100% of the children who are eligible for civil citations are given civil citations. That should be our goal. When I went to the computer to look this up, I kept saying Miami-Dade, Miami-Dade, Miami-Dade. I did not see Orange County as the model. Orange County should be the model. We should be the model not just for Florida, but for the rest of the United States. It is disturbing to think that we have so many children in poverty, at risk, who will become criminals. That is what happens when you arrest a child and put that child in jail with criminals. That's what happens. We know it. I heard the data. Let's get together, work with the league, and let's make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol Davis. It is now a great time to hear from the press and the media to see if you have any questions of any of our speakers today. Do we have any questions? Can somebody explain exactly how a civil citation works? And I think either the best one would be our law enforcement. Yes, that would be the best. Come on.
As far as the civil citation works, the responding officer gets there, they get the information as to what's going on, determine if a crime has been committed, and in turn evaluate whether the case should be sent for prosecution via arrest or diverted via the juvenile civil citation. In Orange County, there's some parameters set by that for the crimes that we can divert, okay? There'll be no gang-related crimes are eligible, no weapon-related crimes are eligible, no crimes of violence in general are not eligible. So the deputy or police officer that's evaluating that case then has to look at it, and the juvenile in question has to admit that they did that act. They have to take ownership of their act. Then, in conjunction with the victim, it's evaluated whether to divert this child off to the juvenile citation program. And then the package is put together, statements are gathered, and it's submitted in, and it goes to the state attorney's office and ultimately deferred in lieu of a physical arrest or actually filing a criminal charge. And that's going to take in most of these things that we're talking about, your vandalisms, your shopliftings, DUI is not eligible, like I said, crimes of violence, a simple battery, the pushing, shoving, and we respond to these things. The schoolyard fight has become the police department and the sheriff's department's issues nowadays. It's not just handled there. Moms and dads or even the kids call. Everybody has a cell phone. So the officers get there, they sort this out, and usually there are some compelling reasons to send it, you know, because we know the impact on a kid is going to follow them literally forever nowadays in this information age. So that's the process that goes into it. So it's much like issuing a notice to appear to an adult. You know, do I physically arrest this person? Do I weigh up all the things, give them a notice to appear, which directs them before the court to be held accountable for their actions? So that's the process. I hope it answers your question.
So when you issue the civil citation, then is it just basically a piece of paper, or do they have to go and do something? What does the program entail?
It is an actual citation. The child signs it. We take their fingerprint, goes with it. The parents are contacted. The victim gets it. I believe the victim gets a copy. I have to look at the thing again. And then the package is submitted into the state attorney's office. And then I'm not exactly sure how it gets diverted or where it goes from there. But the alternative is better than a physical arrest. So yes, the child has to take ownership of their activity, of their actions. If they don't, well then the officer, depending on what his investigation is revealed, is more than likely going to make a physical arrest and transport that person down. So, yes.
I think Captain Chapman did an excellent job. I just want to point out a couple other things, you know, talking about kids in handcuffs and stuff. Orange County we're counted for a number of arrests, even if we let the child go and file the charges with the state attorney. So in other words, a crime is committed, we've identified the victim, we've identified the juvenile, and the juvenile's not put in handcuffs the vast majority of the time. We file charges with the state attorney's office, and they make a charging decision. The other thing I want to, you know, we're a community where a lot of people come together here in Orlando. So unfortunately, if a juvenile from Oviedo, Seminole County, Lake County commits a crime in here, they're not eligible for the citation in Orange County. So those numbers are really counted against us, I think. So just a couple of things I wanted to point out. You know, and I know Miami and Broward have been talked about before, and I'm positive that I've been told that when an arrest is made, even if the officer makes an arrest in that jurisdiction, the state attorney has the ability to divert that person to a juvenile civil citation. And we don't have that ability as of yet here, but trusted to say that we're very committed to this program. You're just going to see the numbers increase more and more each year.
I think in answer to the question, I'm going to ask Terry Milky Valley to step up. Oh, I'm sorry. To give you a complete answer, this is Terry Mildew Valley, who's the head of my juvenile unit, and she can tell you what happens to the civil citation once it comes to us. And she wasn't expecting to speak, so I'm
No, I wasn't. Yeah, I became the juvenile bureau chief in approximately April of this year. And once we receive a civil citation from the law enforcement officer, it's given what's called a JC number. That's different than a kid who is either arrested or the police choose to send the case non-arrest to us. On those type of cases, they are sent over to the clerk's office. They're given a CJ case number, and so there is a record that they had at least had a criminal case in the juvenile justice system. The civil citations avoid that entire process. So when they come to the state attorney's office, we get it, it does not go over to the clerk's office, and then we evaluate the case, and in most circumstances, we will send that child to the civil citation program. So the advantage, again, of the civil citation is it avoids the criminal justice system, and there is no record with the clerk's office, no official record that the juvenile received any type of citation.
So along with the citation,
Yes.
Is there a community service involved or any kind of...
Absolutely. There are services involved, and they're all outlined by statute. There's community service. They have to do community service in the community. If there is an issue, like say it was a school fight, we divert a lot of those cases to civil citation. If there's a school fight, then they may get anger management. There are a number of sanctions imposed. The teen court program, which is one of our longest diversion programs, they've been around longer than any other diversion in the state of Florida. What's wonderful about teen court, it's run by court administration, they now have taken over the civil citations along with the Neighborhood Restorative Justice Program. The Neighborhood Restorative Justice Program was founded at least 10 years ago. It started in Apopka. Now that program has branched out to 5 or 6 different communities. It's no longer just in Apopka. It's in Winter Garden, it's in Ocoee. We have it all throughout our jurisdiction. And the wonderful thing about the Neighborhood Restorative Justice Program is a group of community partners, a group of citizens come together with the juvenile and they talk to the juvenile about how their offense impacted our entire community. I think we all want the same goal, and that is when a kid makes a mistake, we want that child to become nothing more than a productive citizen in this community. I have 5 children of my own, and I know for a fact children make mistakes. What works with one child may not work with that second child. So we all have the opportunity to utilize the civil citation as a teachable moment for all of our children. Because again, we want nothing more than to set them on the right track. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a cost to the families of these children that get issued for these various programs? And if so, approximately how much?
In the civil citation program, the question was, in the civil citation, is there a cost to the kids with the civil citation program? The civil citation, there is not what we normally have, which is a cost of investigation, which is the cost that goes along with the police investigation. That is not imposed in the civil citation. There are a number of, most of the costs are not imposed in the civil citation. So I guess to answer your question is there's no cost for the civil citation. In some of the diversion programs, there are costs, but they're very small costs. They're things like restitution. If, say, someone destroyed someone's car, and so now their car is damaged, and say they have insurance, but yet they have a deductible. Let's say they have a $300 deductible. Then in the diversion program, they would be responsible for that restitution. But in the civil citation program itself, there are no costs along those lines to the family. Does that answer your question? Yes, ma'am.
State Attorney Jeff Ashton mentioned that there were unique challenges that the 9th District has that affected civil citations compared to Miami-Dade, and I was just wondering what those unique challenges are.
Well, I think what makes us, and I think what Jeff was trying to say is that one of the things that has made Central Florida, the 9th Judicial Circuit, very unique, is we currently, and have had for many, many years, approximately 10 diversion programs. Many of our other circuits throughout the state do not have all of those diversion programs. So if they go from no diversion programs to now all of a sudden the civil citation, their numbers are going to skyrocket. But here in the state of Florida, in Central Florida, we have, like I said, I think we currently have 9 different diversion programs. We have, I've already mentioned the Neighborhood Restorative Justice. We have teen court. We have diversion programs for domestic violence. We have drug court diversion programs. So that's where we're unique, is that we already have had a lot of those programs. I looked at the statistics very recently. In fact, I ran them on November 23rd. And out of the 5,495 cases that we received in Orange County, we diverted in some fashion 1,500 cases. Now, out of those 1,500, you already heard Jeff Ashton say that we did 619 cases through civil citation, which is a definite increase from last year. So I think we all have the same goal in mind. We just gotta make sure that it stays, one of our primary issues.
I want to just keep clarity, though, that really today's conversation is about first-time nonviolent misdemeanors, and that is why we are so concerned about the historically high arrest record here, and that the civil citation program, notwithstanding that there are other diversionary programs, This is a proven program that is working in other parts of the state. Dewey, did you want to respond to any part?
You know, I thought I would add something to the mechanics of how the program works, back to your question. Let me just give you a simple example. Let's say, pick on Mr. Wesley here. Let's say Mr. Wesley and I are teenagers. We're 17 years old, and Dewey and Bob are caught by Chief Mina with red Solo cups full of beer. Okay, it's illegal. There should be a consequence. What we're doing as teenagers, there should be a consequence. No one who I know who supports civil citations doesn't think there should be a consequence. It should not be a get-out-of-jail-free card. Now, he and I are going to be assessed separately to see if we are at risk to reoffend. Let's say young Bob's assessment comes back and he's a first-time, one-time offender, very unlikely to reoffend, so there's really nothing more for him to do but complete the program. Now, with me, let's say that the assessment determines that perhaps I've got a stepfather who's physically abusive, a stepmother with a drug problem. They're going to mandate intervention resources for me, and they may even mandate them for my family. I'm going to have to complete those intervention resources to complete the program. That's a big part of what leads to the success rate. The recidivism for civil citation being much better than the civil recidivism for post-arrest diversion. But to your point, there's also community service required up to 50 hours. Often letters of apology are required, sometimes letters of apology. Young Bob and I might have to write a letter of apology to Chief Mina explaining what would have happened had we been arrested, which helps us to gain some perspective. Victim approval sometimes is required, so there are consequences. But I just wanted to clear up to let you know that.
Any other questions? Yes.